Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Paula. I am the GSA Associate Director, and I am so happy that you all are here with us so that we can talk all things GSA and creative writing. So, as folks are coming into the room, if you could put your name and your county in the chat, and I will start us off. Hey, Alexis from Oldham. Hey, Liliana from Boone. Hey, Chloe from Fayette. Hey, Caitlin from Jefferson. Oh my gosh, we got all the heavy hitters in here tonight. Hi, friends. Welcome, welcome. Sorry, I'm like in multiple screens. There we go. Welcome, welcome. My name, as I said earlier, sorry, my name is Paula, GSA Associate Director, and we are so excited to be here with you all to learn more about GSA's Creative Writing Program. So, before we have so much fun and talk about all the things, I'm going to launch a quick poll. And I would like everyone to complete the poll. So it is started right now. We just wanna learn who's in the room, who's here with us. Ooh, okay. High schools represent. Got some ninth graders. Okay. Amazing. Okay. It looks like, okay, half and half. Some folks who've been to a GSA 101. Okay. All right, I'm gonna shut the poll down here in about 30 more seconds. And if you don't get to the poll, it is a-okay. Almost there. Okay, let me go ahead and end. And then let's look at these results. So I'm going to share them out so everyone should be able to see them. So of the folks who are joining us, we have a lot of folks who are eligible to apply for GSA. So that is super exciting. And then we have some parents and guardians of potential applicants. Thank you all for being here and for being champions for the arts. And oh, we have at least one student who is in ninth grade or younger. So glad that you're here. It's never too early to start learning about GSA so that you can become a competitive applicant. And then, of course, everyone's interested in creative writing. But what is GSA without interdisciplinary collaboration? So we have some folks who are into drama, instrumental music, visual art, vocal music. I love that. And then, okay, we have folks who have attended a GSA 101 webinar and then some folks who haven't. No worries. We will be going over some points that we go over in GSA 101. However, all of our GSA 101 presentations are on YouTube. So you are more than welcome to go back, watch the recording, and just kind of like get into it on your own time. Amazing. So let me jump out of that. Okay, perfect. So again, so excited to be here. My role with GSA as the associate director, sorry, my cat is like scratching on the door. I'm home doing this webinar with y'all. We're all home living our lives. My job as a GSA associate director is to be involved in all things GSA. So that can look like things from planning auditions all the way to hiring our summer staffers. One of the major questions at GSA is, are you a GSA alum? I'm not a GSA alum. I'm actually from Georgia, so I never got a chance to go to GSA. I am an artist though. I'm an actor, director, playwright. And so that is my foray into the arts. I've been here since 2021. And so, yeah, every year is a new application cycle, new chance to learn new things and meet so many great minds. So I'm really excited that we are talking about GSA 2025. And I'm joined by someone who is truly a delight. Jazmin is one of my favorite people ever. Jazmin is one of our faculty members who is with us. Our first summer was last summer, so GSA 2024. And it was really, really cool because I got to see it just from a different perspective. It was really nice to watch you go through GSA. And like, I was like, oh yeah, I think we should talk more about that during training. Or, oh yeah, I really like that perspective. So I'm super, super happy to be able to talk all things creative writing with you, Jazmin. Jazmin, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so once again, thank you all so much for coming here and being a part of this webinar. I'm sure you're all super stoked to be a part of GSA. It is an incredible program. Like Paula, I did not have access to GSA. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I also spent some time growing up in Georgia. But this is definitely the kind of program that I would have applied for. I think it's absolutely such an invaluable resource, and you all are so lucky to live in a state that offers this to you. So a little bit about me. I am a writer. I got my master's in fine arts for creative writing from the University of Kentucky. So, I got the Kentucky in my background.
There you go.
I got my master's for poetry, but I also write creative nonfiction and fiction. And then I also dabble in a little art forms. You'll learn as you grow in your own artistry that other arts tend to feed your art. So, I do some acting, I do a little bit of pottery and some knitting as well.
I did not know you were an actor. I'm obsessed. Okay. Okay, we'll get into that more. Um, this is awesome. Alrighty, y'all. So I am gonna share my screen once more. And sorry, we have just all the screens. And so I want to make sure that I set everything up. Give me 1 second, friends. Okay. Get a little. Sorry, that is being weird. I'm so sorry, you all. My technology does not want to work today.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I'm like, it's as if it's the end of the day for my computer too. I'll just show the slide. Okay, so we are gonna hop into this. I am gonna share my screen, and when you all can see it, can you all give me a thumbs up in the chat? Can I get a thumbs up in the chat right now? Make sure, let's see who's with us. Love, yes, thank you. Thank you, thumbs up. All right. So I'm gonna share my screen. So when you all can see it, let me know. Let me know in the chat. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And then another thing, goodness gracious. Okay. So we are here and we're going to talk all things about the creative writing program at GSA. There is a Q&A feature that is on Zoom. We are going to be using the Q&A feature, so please feel free to put your questions in there throughout the time. We will take some time towards the end to answer any questions that folks may have. And if you're watching this on Facebook, I will be looking in the Facebook comments as well, so you can put questions there. And then we will have this on, as I mentioned earlier, everything's going to be on YouTube. So if you're a person that you had a friend who wasn't able to join us, feel free to send them this link once it is up on the website. Amazing. So if you all are not already aware, today's session is a part of a larger series of virtual info sessions that we've been hosting throughout the fall for applicants, parents, and educators. We hope that you all will take great advantage of these and connect with us. Ask all the questions that you need. We are here for you all. Our job is to make sure that everyone knows what they need to know as it pertains to GSA. So this first slide that you are looking at is our application timeline, and this is talking about our webinars. So GSA 101, our very last one, is going to be on December 9th. So we're going to go a little bit more in depth. So you'll see parts of this slideshow again, but it won't be as short. Our application did open on October 4th, as well as our applicant guides were released. And then we have an application walkthrough video and an applicant guide review video. So we'll learn about those. And then our art form specific webinars, last but certainly not least, is tonight. This is our very last webinar for our art forms. I cannot believe that this has happened so quickly. Let's take me there. Ooh, okay, so amazing. So GSA admin, remember that we are here for you. And the only way that you will not the only way to people say, well, what can I do to get a leg up in GSA? The best leg up that I could ever give you is to know what your resources are. We are your resources as folks on admin. So I want you all to know that we're here for you. You can call us. Our phone number is 502-566-5192. We are open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you don't get a hold of us, leave us a message. We will call you back. And if phone call is not really your thing, you can email us, gsainfo@kentuckyperformingarts.org. There are no scary adults at GSA waiting to judge you. We love chatting. I love to yap personally. I'll talk all day long. It's our pleasure and it's our job to help everyone out. So please reach out to us if you have questions. Follow us on social media as well. And then if you're on Facebook, you can find us at Kentucky Governor School for the Arts. And then our handle on Instagram is at KYGSA. So before we get into the meat of things, which is creative writing, let's talk a little bit about what is GSA. So we're going to quickly review. GSA is a summer program. GSA is a 3-week residential summer program that takes place on a college campus. This year, we are at the University of Kentucky. Students attend GSA for one of 9 art forms, and it is completely tuition free. The program has been tuition free since the beginning, since our very first year in 1987. So the students are immersed in an intense, challenging, and exhilarating learning environment. And while each student has to focus on one art form that they're attending GSA for, we have so much interdisciplinary collaboration. So we expect that people are going to be exposed to more than what they came here for. We expect to take approximately 512 students this year, thanks to supplemental funding that we were provided by the Kentucky Department of Education. So very, very grateful for them. GSA, our art forms. One of the most popular questions is, what are our art forms? We have creative writing, dance, design, drama, film and photography, instrumental music, musical theater, visual art, and vocal music. 9 amazing art forms. So you can apply for up to 2 art forms, but you can only attend for 1, and you can only attend GSA once. Some of our alums have such a good time that they want to know, hey, can I come back? Can I do GSA again? You can come back in spirit, but not in real life. It's only for once, only once. So while we are thrilled to talk about creative writing today, and I know that this session is going to be helpful, but I do want everyone to remember that this is not the only way to get information. The best way to get the 100% comprehensive information, resources, all of that good stuff is going to be by utilizing our website, www.kentuckygsa.org. That is going to be where you're going to find the applicant guides. That is where you're going to be directed to the application portal. And it's honestly it's a great starting point if you're a person that is curious about all aspects of GSA. Please be sure to check out our website. So this slide is a little bit of applicant checklist. So you can see, okay, where am I at on the checklist? If you're attending an art form specific webinar, you're there. Like you just got one more step, and that step is working on the application. So that's like, you're basically 75% done with your application at this point. I like to make the little inflate the number some because I want to see everyone apply. This photo that we're looking at is the film and photography applicant guide. So we're going to be going over the creative writing one today. However, they all follow a similar format. So please don't ever think like, oh man, I this mine is so different, or like this is harder than I thought, or anything like that. At GSA, we want to make sure to have the information in a place that is clear, concise, so that if you're a person who is interested in multiple art forms, but you want to know, okay, what are the final round requirements for creative writing? You can look at the top of the creative writing applicant guide and go to those final round requirements. You don't have to hunt and dig. We want to make that a little easier. Okay. And then just a few items of note. So you must be a sophomore or a junior to apply. We do not need to know your GPA, your ACT score, or your SAT score. As I mentioned earlier, you can apply for up to 2 art forms. And then we do have an application fee. So while the program itself is tuition free, there is an application fee. It is $35 for one art form and then an additional $15 for a second application. However, if you're a person who is on free or reduced lunch, either yourself or like your entire district or county, whatever, know that all you have to do is just merely hit, oh my goodness, all you have to do is just merely hit a button and it will waive that fee for you. And there is at no point, like we're not asking for any type of paperwork to say, oh yeah, you're definitely on for your reduced lunch. We trust you. Very last slide is the application timeline. So the application is due on January 12th, 2025. That feels like so long away, but it's like in reality right here. So it's due by end of day, January 12th. I want everyone to note that this is a Sunday and the GSA office is not staffed on the weekends. So that means that January 10th is going to be the last day to call or email us with questions. However, please, 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 please do not wait until the last minute to upload your application if possible, because the accepted, which is the application system that we use, will inherently run slowly as more people are trying to submit their application in the final few days. So do yourself a favor, get your application in nice and early. And we recommend completing your application at least 1 week in advance of the January 12th deadline. And with that being said, students will learn on February 14th if they have advanced to the second and the final round. That's about a month and some change before the final round auditions and reviews. Those take place on March 21st and 22nd. Now, GSA final round auditions and reviews are going to be hybrid. That means that some of the auditions and reviews will be virtual, some of them will be in person. If you're trying in person at the University of Kentucky, make that note. And if you're a person that's like, okay, well, what's going to be what? Full details are going to be in the applicant guide. I will say for creative writing, those final round auditions and reviews are going to be on Zoom. And then, of course, the dates for GSA 2025. So session 1 is going to be June 8th through June 28th. And session 2 is going to be July 6th through July 26th. So if you're like, when am I going to find that out? You will find out on April 11th if you have been accepted, and you'll find out if you've been accepted or if you have been placed on the alternate list. So my folks who've been accepted, you will also find out at that time what session you're going to be going to. All students are going to attend one of 2 sessions above. One thing as it pertains to the sessions though, design is only going to be in session 1. So keep that note. Design is only going to be in session 1 and dance is only going to be in session 2. Creative writing, because it's iconic, is going to be in both sessions. So just know that. I am a huge planner, so I write all the dates down. If you are like me, feel free to take a picture of these dates. They're also on our website as well, so that everyone has the things that they need. I'm going to stop sharing really quick. So, Jazmin,
Yes.
I would love to know from you. I would love to know from you, what is it like in the creative writing program at GSA?
Ooh, so it is intensive. I really want to hound that home. You will be getting your writing done. You're going to be thinking about writing from the moment you wake up till right before you go to bed, right? So it starts off with us all meeting together with all of the other GSA students for that morning meeting where we'll often have like a speaker come in, we'll get announcements, we'll find out about, specific field trips that might be happening for the different disciplines that day. And then we all come together in our classroom. And so in the classroom space, typically the way that we did it last year was that we would start the morning with like a 2-hour free writing session where your instructors would give you writing prompts. Some of them are silly, some of them might be based on what we talked about in that morning meeting with all of the other GSA students, and sometimes they're really broad. But this is really just like a brain dump for you to kind of get into the habit of writing without like necessarily a clear goal. You're just writing to write, to exercise, to exercise that muscle, right? And then as the day progresses, you would have one-on-one, as in you would have one instructor with all of you, so maybe one on class. But you would have a class with each of your different writing faculty over a different thing. So last summer, I was the creative nonfiction faculty. We also had a poetry faculty, and then we had a fiction faculty. And we would all take about 2 hours to work with you, where we would provide you with different things to read. We would go into writing prompts, teach you about the different parts of, those specific genres. So in poetry, we would talk about the elements of poetry. In fiction, we would talk about, the elements of fiction, character, scene. In creative nonfiction, we talked a lot about journalism as well as creative writing, because a lot of people don't think about journalism as being creative, but creative nonfiction is really just real life. So any article that you've ever read or any memoir that you've ever read, those are also all creative nonfiction. And so we really dive into those. And then in the evenings, we would have a semi-free time where we would be preparing for our collaboration with the visual arts program, where we did kind of an ekphrastic exercise, basically, which just means that the art students would provide us with a visual piece, and then you would collaborate with one of the art students yourself to create a like a chapbook with the artist where their artwork would be featured alongside the poetry or the writing piece that you decided to include in those. So of course, it's a 3 weeks, it's packed with a whole lot of stuff, volunteer opportunities, field trips and those things, but that would be what a typical day-to-day looks like.
Wow. I had no idea what that word meant until, thank you so much for explaining it.
You're so
That I was like,
welcome.
this is a very interesting word that I do not know about. This is very cool.
Writing in response to art.
Writing in response. Okay. Oh, I love. Okay. So as we're gonna go through the rest of our time together, I am going to put the creative writing applicant guide on our screens. So let me share, because we do all this sharing. Okay, so everyone should be able to see the creative writing applicant guide. So all the applicant guides follow the same format in terms of there being a program description, the preliminary round application requirements, final round, criteria, that's going to be what are you being judged upon, tips, and then the application timeline and deadlines, those are at the very, very back. So I want to start here with the program description. Jazmin really that's a day. Like that is what our days are like at GSA. And I love how you encapsulated it, like very much keeping it community focused, community oriented, and like getting across that y'all be writing. And I love it. I'm going to go ahead and read the program description. So, students in creative writing will receive intense, individualized, and small group instruction in all aspects of writing, from the formulation of ideas to revising, publishing, and performing. Students participate in class workshops, field trips, and individual conferences with faculty members who are published authors. Students also read aloud their works in progress, learn peer editing techniques, design and create their own chapbooks, and participate in several public readings, including a reading for family and friends on the final day of the program. GSA writers learn and meet a variety of visiting professional writers and guest artists. Something that I thought was super, super exciting this year was that the Kentucky Poet Laureate, Silas House, came and got a chance to spend time with the GSA students. That was truly one of my favorite things. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit here. You can also click on this link when you have some time and see some pictures from the last summer. Okay, so preliminary round application requirements. Again, application is due January 12th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The materials are going to be submitted through an online platform called Accepted. That is not misspelled. There's just not an E in the title. Accepted is a platform that a lot of higher ed programs use as well. So this probably won't be your first or last time working with Accepted. In the preliminary round, everyone must submit the following: 2 recommendation forms, a personal short essay, a personal question video, and then there are art form specific questions, and then a manuscript. So, the recommendation forms, let's chit chat about those first. With the recommendation forms, we are asking you to identify 2 people who will be in support of your GSA application, and you're going to put down their first and last name and their email address. And then what will happen is that Accepted is going to send them a form to fill out that is asking questions about who you are as an artist, your potential, your abilities, how you contribute to a learning environment or a community, and just your overall fit for GSA. So something that people ask all the time is like, well, do these people have to be my teachers? Does it have to be a principal? What if we don't do art at my school? Or what if I don't participate in the art activities at my school? That is completely fine. Recommenders, they can be teachers from inside or outside of the school, and in any subject, or they can be school administrators like a guidance counselor, a mentor, or they can be other people who are involved in your personal or artistic development, such as a coach, a youth minister, or a staff at an organization that you volunteer or you work at. So it does not have to be the person, it doesn't have to be just the people who know you solely for your art. Um, with that being said, though, who it cannot be is your parents. Can't be your parents, can't be any like close family. Um, Jazmin, why are the recommendation forms why do you think they're important to the process?
I think one of the reasons that the recommendation letters are so important to the process is because when you're in a program like GSA, even within your art form, it really is a collaborative environment. And so we would like to see from other people outside of, yourself and your household, how they think that you're interacting with people. So this goes into if someone is not necessarily not interested, everyone's interested, but if they're not familiar with your writing, maybe, you did decide to go with your football coach or your youth minister, they can still speak to how you work in a team environment, how you show up for the people in your life, how you show up for your teammates, how you show up for the people in your community, because we're going to need that same energy here. And so I really think that the recommendation forms, first, I don't want you to stress about that, because what's most important in a creative writing program is going to be your manuscript always and forever. But when it comes to, trying to differentiate between 2 really good manuscripts, those letters of recommendations can be really strong in helping us decide, okay, who do we think is really going to fit in this community of collaboration?
Mhm. Thank you. I love that. That is very, very true. And something that will also add to that is We understand that you can send people the form all day long, and sometimes they may not respond, or sometimes they respond too late. Know that we do not hold that against you. If your recommender doesn't respond in time, we know that you're doing everything that you can, and then we also reach out to them on our end as well. I think you kind of hinted at it already, but like Jazmin, what are you looking for in those recommendation forms? Like what are the when people say X thing, what like stands out to you the most?
I really think it's when the recommenders are just speaking highly about the work ethic of the person, I think is the biggest one, but also how that person interacts with other people. So, like the relationship that they might have with the youth minister, I keep using that example because it's right in front of me. But the relationship that you might have with your youth minister or the boss at your job, how you interact with customers at your job if maybe you're working in a clothing store or a restaurant or something like that. I think those are just the biggest things that we're looking for is how do other people around you and in your community perceive you in terms of being a leader? Because ultimately, I feel like GSA isn't just creating artists, it's creating leaders as well.
Yes. And contrary to popular belief, the creative writers don't just like sit in their rooms and only write alone. I think that is a very popular misconception. Everyone is in community. And
Yes.
so how we exist with each other is so important. So as I'm scrolling down a little bit, before you list the person as a recommender, we really encourage you to inform them that you're going to be applying to GSA and that you want to list them. You want to confirm the email address, double check, make sure you have that where it needs to be, because if not, that could prolong the process because we'll have to go in and change, and it's not the end of the world, but if we can get it right the first time, that would be the best. So you're going to let the recommenders know they need to check their email. The email is going to come from accepted, not from GSA. And it's going to be titled documentation request from, and then whatever the person's name is for Kentucky GSA. Amazing. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit more to our personal short essay. So the personal short essay and the personal question video, everyone has to complete these. So with the personal short essay is a 250 word max. And I will say, if you write like 255 words, 260 words, or 248 words, we're not going to be like, oh man, that's 2 words over. No. But if you're like 350 words, we need to make sure that we're kind of staying at that limit, because our adjudicators read them. Jazmin's going to be reading these and learning about you all. So we want to make sure that we are being as clear and concise as we can be. So the question is, how can slash why should the art form that you are applying for be of importance to your community or society as a whole? So if you're a person who's applying to 2 different art forms, you will need to tailor your responses to each art form. And it'll be easy if you don't tailor them, it'll be easy for people to spot. So make sure that you're tailoring your responses to your different art forms if you're applying for more than one. Um, and with the personal short essay as well as the personal question video, we look for authenticity.
Mhm.
We want you to be honest, open with us, and like authentic in why you think this is important. Some people want to know, does it have to be cookie cutter? No. This is your space. This is your space for us to learn about you and the type of work that you want to do. Then we have the personal question video. That video is going to be 90 seconds max. And with this video, we are seeking to learn, why is your art form, the art form you're applying for, important to you? So what about creative writing is important to you? And then what are the goals for yourself as an artist in this art form? I find that it is so difficult for artists to talk about ourselves. And this is a really, really great space for you to learn that muscle. I love Jazmin earlier when you talked about writing like a muscle, like it's like a tool, like you getting used to it. And writing is rewriting. And I think this is a really great space to learn to start talking about yourself, also start talking about your art, because that is a large part of GSA. We want to learn about your art. So, Jazmin, as an adjudicator, what are things that you're looking for with these essay responses?
I really think I want to piggyback off of your response and say authenticity for sure. I think in the short essay, maybe if you wanted, you could flub it a little bit, but in that video, we're going to literally be looking at you, right? And so we want to see you for who you are. Don't feel like you have to hide yourself or be somebody
Mhm.
different or be what you think a writer should be. Be you. You are what a writer should be. Your experience, the stories that you want to tell, the poems that you want to write are valid. So be honest with us about that. If your passion is puppies and cats and dogs and you really want to write about that and that's where you are, like, do that and be enthusiastic about it. We want to see the enthusiasm. We want to see your hunger for your art form.
Love, love. Okay. And then we have our art form specific questions. These questions, I'm going to go ahead and read this paragraph. Applicants will be asked questions about their specific interest in their art form and their level of access to training, classes, or lessons in their art form. Applicants can review the specific questions for their art form once they have submitted their recommender information, excuse me. And the most important thing to note, take this away, what I'm about to say next. There are no right or wrong answers to these questions. I'm going to say
Mhm.
that again. There are no right or wrong answers for these questions, nor are we looking for one type of student over another. Rather, we may ask these questions to understand the applicant to their fullest capacity. So here's the thing, Kentucky has 120 counties, which is wild. Um, if of those 120 counties, there are like each county does not have the same amount of access to arts education. And we are aware of that at GSA. So we want to learn, what do you know? What do you not know? What do you want to learn more of? So we can truly ask ourselves, is this program going to be a really good fit for you? If so, do we need to modify some of our curriculum? Because the faculty members are looking at the application materials as they start thinking about what it looks like to build out the summer. So it is, again, I'm going to piggyback off Jazmin, who piggybacked off me. Authenticity. Authenticity is going to be the place that you're going to thrive when thinking about when thinking about GSA and answering these questions, because we want to know how we can best support you. Now the manuscript. I'm so excited that we're talking about this because Jess and I went to Kentucky Thespian Festival this past weekend, and someone asked questions about the manuscript, and I was like, oh, that is not my gospel, but come to the webinar on the 14th. We'll get into it. So for the manuscript, for GSA 2025, all manuscripts will be submitted in a single creative writing category. We will read and consider manuscripts that include work in a variety of forms: fiction, creative nonfiction, poetry, hybrid forms, the list goes on. While you can include creative writing from any form you desire, we strongly recommend that you submit complete pieces. We discourage submitting excerpts from longer works. The reason why we discourage excerpts is because we want to see how you bring your work to its complete conclusion. So this is the formatting for the manuscript. All manuscripts must be typed. The spacing, they must be double space. Prose section, single space. For poetry, screenwriting, or playwriting sections can be single space as well. The margins, 1 inch on all sides. The font, Times New Roman, which is my favorite, Arial or Courier. The font size needs to be 12, 12, 12, 12. Total pages, 6 to 7 pages. Put breaks in between your pieces. For example, each poem should be on its own page. If your short story ends on page 3, bring the next piece on, put the next piece on page 4. Be sure to include the titles between your pieces. You can underline or bold, and center align titles for clear readability. The file format for your manuscript should be in one of the following files. Follow these guidelines to a T. And please know that we want to read your manuscripts. We want to read them. And if you're having trouble, like, oh, I don't know, if you're having trouble, know that a manuscript is better than no manuscript. So, Jazmin, I'm gonna let you take it away. What do you think, what are things that you want us to know about the manuscript?
In terms of the formatting of it or just the turning in of it?
Anything.
Hmm.
What are your what do you think is, if you could take away 2 to 3 things about this, about the manuscript, what would you want people to know?
So I think the biggest thing that I would encourage you to do, and this is something that my instructors, when I was going through my own creative writing program, had encouraged me to do, is to stray away from choosing your favorite pieces and choose the pieces that you really think are the best for yourself, like the best to put your best foot forward, right? Because let's be real, some of my pieces that I have that are my favorite are not necessarily my best. They're just my favorite. Maybe I really like the subject matter or I like this one line, but you pick what you think is your strongest work. We want to see what you feel like is your strongest work. I also wanted to re-emphasize that yes, we would rather read any manuscript over none. So even if you don't feel like you have a completed piece, still submit it. We still want to see the vision. We're also looking at your skill level overall. We understand that you might not be able to fully bring, your creative nonfiction piece to conclusion. Maybe you don't know how you feel about the end yet. Or maybe you have a poem and you're not sure how the poem is going to end, but you're really like loving that opening. That is okay because we're paying attention to those things too. We want to see how up until this point you have worked on trying to master your craft in creative writing.
Love. I have a question.
Yes,
What if someone is writing something and it is like 50 pages? Should they submit all 50 pages?
absolutely not. But what I will tell you to do then, I think that's a really great question, is if you, let's say you really cannot parcel it down, you're like, all I have is this novel manuscript, then I would pick like the peak of action of that manuscript or pick the part
Okay.
where like something is really happening, where it's not just, world building, it's not descriptions. Put us in the climax, put us in the center of the action, that way we can just kind of once again see what you're working with, see how you make your characters interact on the page, or see how you describe it. Just see how you like to utilize language, because that's ultimately the thing that we're looking for, is how are you using your voice on the page. So I think out of all of that, that's probably the most important advice that I can give you for the manuscript, is submit the work where you're proud of how you're using your voice on the page.
Nice. Nice. Okay. So moving on down, our final round application requirements. So anyone who makes it to the final round, which those interviews are going to be virtual and they're going to be on March 21st and 22nd. So everyone will do a pre-review questionnaire. So this is going to be something that is going to be we're going to be asking you a few more questions about your art, why you're interested in GSA, why right now, do you have a session preference? Are you applying for another art form? Questions like that. But this is something that you will complete before the application so that adjudicators have a chance to see it and can ask or build some of their questions around things that they have read. Then there is the virtual group interview. So on Zoom, there's usually 6 to 8 people per interview. And this is one of the spaces where I found where we are really learning how everyone is going to maneuver in an ensemble, in a group. Um, and I know some people kind of get tired of Zoom, but I think they're pretty fun. You get a chance to meet the faculty members, also meet people who could be your potential classmates. Um, After, though, there is a post-interview free write. So following the interviews, finalists will have 45 minutes of self-guided time to complete a free writing exercise. The prompt and the submission instructions for the prompt are going to be provided in the interview. So that's something that is another part of it. So if you're like, oh, whew, that interview, I'm done. Nope, you gotta do your free write after the interview. And I will say we have this question for this quite frequently, excuse me, if you're a person who is neurodivergent or has any type of like accommodations where you get extra time for writing or anything like that, just reach out to us at GSA Info, and we can make sure that you get that accommodation as we think about the final round review as well. We're almost done with the applicant guide, some good old criteria. So I won't go over all of the criteria. I would like everyone to please, again, make sure that you're reading the applicant guide. But this is the criteria for the fiction in manuscripts, where well, for each of them, we're looking at the writing structure, the language, and the character development. So this is going to be for our fiction, for creative nonfiction, and then criteria for poetry submissions in manuscripts. Jazmin, would you like to say anything about any of the criteria, whether it is just like an overarching something that you want folks to know about or anything specific?
Let me think. Overarching criteria about the manuscripts. I would say don't overthink it. Honestly, I know we have these very specific criteria where you're like, is my voice good? Am I using form and poetry correctly? Or maybe I'm not really necessarily developing these characters out the way that I want them to be. Once again, like, don't stress. We all know that you are beginning in your writing journey. And so we just want to see what we're working with because I promise you, when you come to GSA, we're going to teach you about poetic form, right? We're going to teach you how to further develop your characters or how to end a story. So read these guidelines, look at your stuff, maybe pick a couple of things within the guidelines that you might want to work on. Like, if you feel like your weakest thing might be imagery, take a look at the poems that you're submitting and, see if you can strengthen a few of the images in your poem. You don't have to strengthen every single thing. We just want to see you honestly at your most raw.
Want to see you at your most raw. That's, yeah. So then down here are some tips. So to know, one thing to know about the tips, they are suggestions. They are not eligibility requirements to get into GSA. So I advise everyone to look through those. And I love this because we have the capacity. We have some future best-selling authors on this call also who went through GSA. So Jazmin, what would be your advice to someone who is on the fence about applying to GSA?
What do you have to lose? You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So if you're sitting there and you're like worried about even if you can get in, I know when I was like in high school, I would often not do things just because I was worried about my ability to get them. But the only thing that separates people who are successful from people who are unsuccessful is that the people who are successful fail and keep trying. So you literally have nothing to lose by applying for GSA, except, maybe the application fee.
Yeah.
But you really don't, because you'll learn something about yourself either way. You'll learn about your writing as you work through the application materials. You'll learn about what you want out of your creativity, whether, you decide in the middle of your application process, oh, actually, I really want to do acting instead. So I think you should definitely, if you're on the fence, do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Mhm.
And then each applicant guide ends with our lovely timeline that we will talk about this timeline all day long. And then help and support. So again, our office hours are Monday 9 to 5. Our phone number is down here. Our email address is on here as well. For emails, we typically give us like a 48 to 72-hour turnaround for response. If it's like busy, like, give us a little bit of space. We'll always get back to you, but we try to be prompt. If you, as you're working through your application, if you're having any technical support, contact Accepted. That's their email and that's their phone number. Accepted is really, really good about helping through tech issues. Some of the issues, like we may not know how to solve them. So I highly suggest reaching out to Accepted and if you are still not having any luck, let us know. And we can, again, figure out accommodations, figure out what we need to do so that you can complete your application. So this is the Creative Writing Applicant Guide. So I'm going to stop sharing. Let me go back. Okay, so now you see Jazmin and I looking fabulous. So now let's go into the Q&A. So I see 2 questions in the Q&A. So if you all have them, please, please, please drop them in the Q&A. If you can't see the Q&A and you want to put them in the chat, that's fine too. Okay, Jaden, thank you so much for the question, Jaden. How does the final round interview cooperate with individual needs from school and or clubs? That is an excellent question, Jaden. So when folks find out if they've made it to the final round, there's also a survey that we send out. It's like a jot form survey. So we ask you like, what times are you most available? So with the auditions and reviews being on a Friday and Saturday, you have some people who like we can give you a school excuse. So like if you need to not be in school that day because you have that, we can give you that excuse. Also, there are a lot of schools who will support that and be like, hey, let me give you, I can give you an hour or however long you need to go to the library and work on said thing. So it really just depends on like when your interview is and also like how communicative can you be with your school about needing to miss time. With that being said, though, if you have something like, say, you know, without a shadow of a doubt that you are not going to be available on the 21st or the 22nd because there's like a competition or like there's an archery tournament or something like that, we ask that you put that on the survey. Put it on the survey so that we know. The protocol that we follow is if someone is not able to participate in final round reviews, that does not automatically disqualify them. It does not automatically disqualify them. The adjudicators make their choices based off the materials that you've already submitted. And they will know like, hey, this person has a competition, so they're not able to make it. Did that answer your question, Jaden? And if you have another question, go ahead and put it in the chat or in the Q&A. Okay, so we did that one. Caitlin wants to know about how many students are accepted into the creative writing program. Around 28. 28 kids per session. Okay, so someone says, where do we find the art form specific questions? They see us talking about in the applicant guide, but where are the questions themselves? That is great. The questions themselves are on accepted. So once you submit your recommenders, it'll pop up and another screen will pop up with the questions. We don't have them in the applicant guides themselves because it might take it there. Sometimes there can be a lot of questions depending on the art form. And so it's just easiest if we can streamline and keep the questions in the application itself. But they're not so intense that it's going to take you 4 days to come up with a response. Like I promise you. Let's see. Okay. Ellie, thank you for your question. If I want to go to a specific session due to scheduling conflicts, am I able to ask to go to that session? Yes, you are. So with application part 3, that's the section that I mentioned earlier where you put in where it's like a final round questionnaire. You would put that in the questionnaire. So there's a question that says, do you have a session preference? If so, what is it? So we ask you for your session preferences there, and we do our best to make sure we're going by everyone's session preference. But I do want to say this to make sure it's clear. We do reserve the right to place people in sessions based off the needs of the program. With that being said, I that is reserved for situations like if someone says, I don't have any session preference, and we put them in session two, but they knew deep down that they wanted session one and they didn't say it. Well, you gotta let us know. But that will be the space for that. So that will be the space for you to say, I need to be in session one because I have this predetermined trip to Greece, or my aunt is getting married in Costa Rica, or whatever. We're going all these tropical weddings. You would put that in the questionnaire so that the adjudicators would know, and that is how they would make their decisions about who is going to be in what session. Ooh. Jazmin, is it
Mhm.
okay to include multiple pieces within your manuscript? Do they need to relate to one another? Can they be different genres? This is from Elizabeth.
Yes, so thank you so much for your question, Elizabeth. It is 100% okay for you to include multiple pieces within your genre or within your manuscript. And they do not have to relate to one another. So you can put two short stories, and one can be a horror piece, and one can be like high fantasy, if that's what you want to do. And yes, they can also be different genres as well. Yeah, yeah.
Do you recommend that students have multiple genres,
Uh, I
or
think
like a personal preference type thing?
I think it really just depends. Ultimately, I think what I would recommend is that you put forth the work that you feel like best exemplifies who you are as a writer. And that's the best advice that I can give without like policing, you need to have this art form or you need to have that art form. Because a lot of you are still experimenting as well. And I think that's completely valid. So definitely just focus on putting out work that you feel like this is who I am as a writer.
If I don't get into GSA this year, am I able to apply next year? So if you are a sophomore, it's your sophomore year, and you apply and you don't get into GSA, you can apply again. However, if you are a junior and you don't get in this year, unfortunately, you cannot apply again. But we always recommend that if you don't get in the first year and you have another year of eligibility, please, please, please reapply. Thank you for this question, Bryant. Bryant says, I've been enjoying writing poems and stories since I was in elementary school. Do you prefer more recent works or all around best works from any period in our lives?
So once again, another incredible question. Thank you so much, Bryant. I think my biggest recommendation would probably go back to the same thing I told Elizabeth, which is you want to make sure that you're just picking work that really exemplifies who you are right now as a writer. Let me think. There was something else on my mind about that question because it was so good. Also, I get wanting to hold on to the things that we've written a really long time ago. I just want to encourage you to kind of also release that. Don't be afraid to use your newer stuff because you're going to be writing a lot of new stuff in GSA. It's a very generative program.
Nice. Okay. Okay, cool. So friends, it is 8:37 right now, so in a few minutes over time, so sorry. Before we hop off here, I want to check in. Do we have any other questions?
Did you
Speak
see
now,
me
forever hold your peace. Just joking. What'd you say, Jazmin? I'm sorry.
on Facebook?
Look, I looked, I was like, I didn't see anything on Facebook, so
We have another question. Um, Let me see. I have a short story, 8 pages, double space. Since the requirement is 6 to 7 pages, would it be a format issue to make it single spaced so I can submit more pieces along with that story in my manuscript? This is really okay. A really great question. Once again, my suggestion to you would be to see if you can make that story a little bit shorter if you're trying to submit multiple pieces. And I think one of the things that we'll learn about in GSA is brevity, is word economy. So I would just go through, read your story, and think about how much you have there that is necessary for the story to be told, and how much you can kind of take out maybe and leave up to interpretation for your reader or for your reader to figure out. Um, or your other option is to just submit the other pieces instead of the longer short story if you're trying to give us a diversity of your voice.
nice. Okay. Okay. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
We got one, another one?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, y'all. Come on.
Yeah,
Keep
it's
on moving.
fine.
Come on, come on. Jaden says, I have pieces that were written to be D&D openings for my players. Are these fine as well? They are somewhat open-ended.
I'm going to leave that to you. Once again, just remembering that we want to put out the work that we feel like best represents us as writers. So if you feel like the D&D openings for your players best represent you as a storyteller, then I would say go for it. I think I would be a little bit hesitant about the open-ended part just because once again, we want to see that you can bring a story to completion. So if you really want to use those openings, maybe see if you can play around with them to kind of bring them to completion and make them more whole.
Mhm. Something that I want to say is I love the questions that we're getting, and I think something to note. What Jasmine said earlier is that we want you to be raw and authentic.
Yes.
That does not mean perfect.
Yes.
So know that like you do not have to be perfect. There
Yes.
is not anywhere in the requirements that says this has to be the pinnacle, the best thing that you've ever created. We do not want you to be so worried about if your pieces are going to be good enough. We want you to showcase yourself where you are and where your work is to the best of your ability. And that's
Yes.
going to look different for everybody. And that's
Yes.
okay.
Thank you. That was a really great follow-up to that answer.
Absolutely. Is it important? Yeah, so Gabriella, do you mean for Gabriella says it's important to be in a club to have someone who teaches you or is okay to apply without that? Do you mean like for the recommender forms? If that is what you mean, can you give me a thumbs up in the chat? Well, I'll answer this a little bit and maybe and hopefully this will be it. So when we think about the governor school. So Kentucky is, oh, just club in general. Okay, cool. So one thing about Kentucky is that we have three governor schools, and we're super fortunate to have that. However, each of them have different requirements. So when I hear this question, I mention that because at Governor Scholars Program, GSP, there is a lot of questions throughout the application about your extracurricular activities, and we only touch on them. Like it's not a requirement that you are in a club, speech and debate, whatever. Like that's not a requirement for us. So if you are, that's great. But also know you don't have to be in a club or an after school anything to apply for GSA. You also don't have to have your school doesn't have to nominate you. That's what I was trying to get at. At GSP, students have to be nominated. Students do not have to be nominated at GSA. A lot of people apply to GSA, and sometimes their schools don't know anything about it until they get to the final round auditions, and that's cool too. So, let me know if that answered your question, Gabriella. Oh, perfect. Okay.
I was also going to say, I think we as writers know how like solitary and lonely the writing profession and hobby can be. So, we know that there might not be a club or, some kind of extracurricular activity that is
Mm,
really specific to this. And that's something that we definitely already are taking into consideration because we've experienced it ourselves.
yes. Okay. Let me check Facebook once more. Uh, so Jane says, could we have fictional poetry in
Yeah.
terms of the genres?
Yes, you can have poems that are not necessarily rooted in reality.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Love. Okay. Jane, let me know on Facebook if that answers your question. If not, let feel free to reach out to us once we get off of this and we can try again. Okay, let me see if we had any more questions. Do, 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 do. Okay. I think we're good on the questions right now. So Jazmin, if you could give any creative writer
Mhm.
two pieces of advice for GSA or not GSA, what would that be?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give is even if you don't get into GSA, not to stop writing. You won't not get in because you're not good enough. I'm sure there will be like many people who are good enough, but we can literally only accept a certain amount. So do not take it personally at all. And then I think the second piece of advice that I would give you is, and I think everybody says this, but I think it's really true because I am still tempted to do this sometimes, but don't stop writing ever. Like even if you feel like, oh, I'm gonna go and be a doctor or a lawyer because that's what mom and dad wants, that's fine. But don't stop writing. Always use your voice because it's like the most important thing that you have.
Yes, yes. I really appreciate what you said, especially about being an artist. At GSA, we say that you're an artist no matter what.
Yes.
You have so many people who come through GSA they of course are like you all. They came and they wanted to have fun and learn about their art. And then they become accountants or they become jewelry designers or they become arts administrators. And guess what? We're all still artists. So at GSA, everyone is an artist, and GSA is not the end all be all of your art. So please, please, please keep writing, keep using your voice. And as Jazmin said earlier, which I love, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So the only way to guarantee that you will not get into GSA is if you don't apply. So
Yeah.
apply. And again, if you all have any questions, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. But I think we're done for tonight. Jazmin, do
Okay.
you have any final words before we hop off Zoom?
I think you all are doing the right thing even by showing up here today. So you should be really proud. It's hard to get on a call after class. I know some of your parents are here after work, after practice, whatever. It's hard to sit on Zoom. So you should be really proud of yourself for coming up in here and investing in yourself and in your future.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us via GSA info email or call us. We are here for you all, and we cannot wait to read so many amazing manuscripts. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Bye.